Great day, great day. This is Tammy J with The Texture of Me. Welcome to the show. Our show provides a place where people can voice their experiences and having dealt with discrimination because of the texture of their hair. Great day, great day. This is Tammy J with The Texture of Me. Welcome to our show. I am so ecstatic, excited to have Dr. Mbilishaka on our show. Oh my gosh. Just thank you for being here. I'm just so moved that you took the time to be here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I feel your enthusiasm and energy through the screen. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. When I have people on my show, I just appreciate them taking the time to be here. I really acknowledge who you are and what the work that you're doing. Oh man, I remember just reading your bio and what you're up to and impacting the industry, especially with natural hair. It's just like, wow. And it's psychotherapy, right? That's what it's
Yep.
called. I want to make sure I pronounce it right. And just, I'm so moved by the work you're doing all over the world, impacting people. And the thing that really like resonated with me so much is the point that you use hair as a way of an opening point to mental service and beauty salons and, barbershop, but really getting with how hair really impact us mentally, you
Mm.
know? And when I saw that, I was like, "What?" I'm like, "This is what I'm talking about. I've been talking about this for a minute." It's like, oh my gosh, like we're so connected. I love what she's doing. So, I can go on and on who you are for me, just the impact you're making in the world and just so inspiring. I mean, and then, it's funny because as I'm working on my dissertation, I remember seeing your name as I'm doing my articles and stuff, right? You know how we have to cite everything. And then when I got present to the article, I'm like, "I read this one before. Oh, that's her," So it's like, "What? This is so awesome." So anyway, I'm so excited as you can tell from being on the show. So do tell us, more about yourself. One of the things I have this platform for people to share their natural hair journey. What was
Mm.
yours like for you growing up?
Okay, great question. Well, I always had natural hair.
Oh,
So I never chemically relaxed my hair because my mother wouldn't let me.
oh,
I have a lot of positive early memories with my mom surrounding my hair. On Sunday nights, she would always wash and braid my hair, and it was our ritual. I'm the youngest of four children, and so this was the one-on-one time that I craved, and it was
mhm.
actually through the hair care process. So my mom would let me have some authority or choice in how my hair was done. She let me pick the number of braids. So that was the I got to say
Oh.
like, so I'm like 5 and she's like, "How many braids you want?" I'm like 3, or she would say, "How many braids this week?" And I'm like 7. And so she would come up with like a
Mhm.
7 braid pattern, or I'm like, you know, 5, it's whatever it was. And so I
Mhm.
felt like I chose the style to some degree. And so she was very gentle. My
Mm.
memories of my mom was very gentle, was good at detangling, that I don't remember her ever like hitting me with a brush or a comb or
Girl,
anything
you
that some
so
people
blessed if you only knew. You just only
yeah.
knew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I have really positive early memories. Of course, when I was a teenager, I'm like, "Please let me get a perm. I need it." And she's like, "No, you don't need it." Even
Wow.
though my mom's hair was straightened, chemically straightened, she didn't want me to go through that process. And
Wow.
so I can remember in college and like graduate school feeling pressure to
Mhm.
have straightened hair, but I just never did it. And I recognized that my hair was a big part of my identity and I didn't want to change it. So even for like my wedding day, my hair was big and natural, things that
Mm.
maybe I had pictured going a little bit differently. But at that point, it was like the peak of the natural hair movement. And so I felt comfortable. But that I recognized that having natural hair is a big part of who I am.
Mm. Yeah, and I appreciate that because I remember starting off with the texture of me. I was so about I wanted to hear the trauma that people had. And so I'd have people on the show, and when they wouldn't have trauma, I'm like, I can't even use this. No. But it was like a revelation for me. I'm like, it don't always have to be bad. It could just be a journey. And we
Yes.
could express it. But it was something for me to take in. Like people actually have positive experience with their natural hair journey?
Yes, yes, I do. It's interesting because I could remember more so interracial
Hmm.
issues versus intraracial. Because I know a lot of people that I work with describe sort of black on black violence when it comes to hair in terms of being mistreated or being called the other N word, right? And
Right.
thinking about some of the trauma that can go along there. But for my personal experiences, the people who talk negatively about my hair were
Hmm.
not black. And so
Hmm.
I'm even recognizing within Black communities, maybe I have a certain level of like privilege because I have a looser curl pattern or longer hair, um, that I don't have 4C hair or something like that. But yeah, white people and Asian people Asian Americans that lived with or worked with were more so trying to touch it and trying to criticize it. And so I think that's a little bit unique in terms of my story.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting, and but like, and I appreciate that you sharing that story because I know with me, I don't know if you know that, like, my mom is actually Korean and she has
Mhm.
curly hair, right? And people are like,
Mm.
what? But it's like, being in the hair industry, which I know you're familiar with because you're a licensed
Yeah.
hairstylist as well. I love it, and the process of the impact of how hair has on us. People don't know that 70% of women have some type of textured hair and it continues to grow because people are identifying it more because they thought frizzy brushed out hair was actually still straight hair and not actually some type
Mm.
of textured hair. So yeah, I really get that people are not aware, and they want to know more, and
Yes.
with the whole crown act, which I appreciate, is bringing that awareness in its own way, and
Mhm.
as far as, but there's that part that's missing that I know you speak about and I speak about. There's a mental part that people have not talked about, not even mentioning, or not, I mean, just nothing, and it's a big deal. And, going into, before I go into more of that, I really would love for you to share more about psychotherapy. Like, what had you to develop that, and more about it.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thanks for asking about the origin story because I know each of us have a story about how hair connects to mental health. For me, I always loved doing hair. So I would have like a lawn chair at family cookouts, and my cousins would line up, and I just create all these styles. And then when I was in college, I always loved doing my friends' hair. So people would come to my dorm room and I just start going away. But it's interesting because I never charged anyone. I just liked the process of
Mm,
doing hair.
mm,
And so I was also a psychology major. And I remember talking to my Aunt Brenda on the phone one day. She's now an ancestor, and telling her I had a dilemma for after I graduate. I asked her, I'm like, should I study psychology or should I study hair? And she said, well, why can't you do both? Now,
mm.
I don't think she was telling me to do both at the same exact time, but
Right.
that's the way I interpreted it and thought, I can do hair and therapy together.
Mm,
And so that was sort of the birth of psychotherapy in my college dorm room. And so I went on to a PhD program in clinical psychology at Howard University, but I still had that hair passion. And so it wasn't until after I got licensed as a psychologist, after I got a tenure track position as a professor, after I started my own therapy private practice, that I then went to hair school. So I felt like I kind of did it in a different order, but I
mm,
had already established myself as a psychologist and then entered the hair care industry.
mhm,
And so they mix really well together.
mhm, mhm.
So some of the same skill sets still applied in that caretaking role. I recognize that it could be my role and responsibility then to hold therapy individual and group in salons and barbershops, but then also to train hair care professionals in micro counseling skills and mental health first aid. So that's really where I've been like finding my sweet spot
Gotcha.
in doing this work.
Gotcha. Yeah, I so appreciate it because, what a lot of people are not aware of, that the beauty industry does not teach about textured hair at all. At all. And, I share like with my journey, as hairstylists and into psychology.
Mhm.
And it was that point where I decided to go natural. And I share this story, but I'll keep sharing it, because it's
It's
so
your story.
transformational.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mine. And like I said, I had a client. I'm doing her hair naturally, and here's my hair blown out. And
Mhm.
she gonna ask me, why you don't wear your hair curly? I'm like, can you stay in your own lane, please? You know what I mean? It was like, what's she doing trying to tell me? And then I had to reflect, why am I not? And it
Mm.
was just something where, the beauty I saw for everybody else, I didn't see it for me.
Yeah.
And to wear my hair natural. And I remember like when I decided to do it, I was like, because I'm a hairstylist, I can change my hair up anyway. I can straighten it. So let me go on this journey. And oh my gosh, when I went through the process and the mental part that I saw, I was crying, didn't want to look at myself in the
Mm.
mirror.
Mm.
And I appreciate the psychology background because it gave me this thing like, oh, no, 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 like something's not right here. Something's wrong. Something
Mm.
going on. You got some mental things you're dealing with. And I'm like, and it's funny because as I discover it, right, like, does anybody else know? It's just like, well, maybe. But in that, I decided to have conversations with my clients. And the moment, as we talked and I saw the emotion that came with it, that's when I knew I had something. And that's what
Mm.
had me like going into this field and bringing the awareness of the impact that hair discrimination has on people with textured hair.
Mm.
Yeah. And so it's, just looking at what you're doing. And I love the fact that you are supporting hairstylists to be educated in this field, just really having awareness because it does, it's this big question mark where how is that majority of people have some type of textured hair and it's not being taught?
Mhm.
And what I even discovered it was a level of segregation because if you
Mm.
don't know how to do the person hair, they're not going to go over there, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I just think about just wow, the articles you've done, the books you've done, and I've seen that and it's all relating to that. And I'm just so inspired, like what you're doing. And it's just,
Mm.
I don't know how to put it in words. Do share more. Like, I know it said you testified naturally on behalf of the Crown Act. How was that?
Well, that's the thing. It's interesting to think about going from lawn chairs to Congress, right?
Right.
On the same exact topic of Black hair. Yeah, I had been doing research in my psychology research lab for a few years on hair and hair discrimination and hair loss and all these different hair related topics. And so in 2019, when New York City was proposing a version of the Crown Act, and then later that same year, Senator Holly Mitchell in California was proposing it to the California State Senate. Then I'm like, wait, there's a thing, a bill, a law. And so I was in Washington, D.C. at the time. And so I'm like, okay, let me lean into my political connections or something. And I was reaching out to people who I knew were like political aides. And I'm like, who is running the Crown Act? I want to be involved in this. This is exactly what I study. And so they connected me to someone who was really leading the Crown Act, Adjoa Asamoah. And she partnered with Dove and got all this funding. And so she immediately met me for lunch. She had me in Cory Booker's office like the next day. I'm like, okay, this happened really fast. Um,
Mm,
and so from there, I actually got to give physical copies of my articles over to his staff.
mm,
And then they started identifying me as a subject matter expert on
mm,
the psychology of Black hair. And
mm,
so I got to go testify in specific state senates
mhm,
like New Jersey, Maryland, um, Wisconsin, South Dakota, uh, Connecticut, Delaware. Like so I was being pulled into in person testifying and then virtually during the pandemic. I think only about 17 or 18 states at this point have passed the Crown Act. So there's still a lot more to do. And it passed in the House of Representatives,
mhm,
but not in the Senate. So even recognizing that this is not federal law, that it is very state specific. So it is legal
mhm,
in this country to actually discriminate against someone based on having natural hair.
mm.
We're still at that point. So
That's crazy. I
more
mean,
work
I'm
to
in
do.
Texas and the only place the Crown Act is, like, approved is in Austin. I'm like, "Well, we
Mm.
have other cities, like,
Oh my goodness.
yeah." I'm like, "This" but anyway, I don't wanna go there. And but I'm present too, it's like, I had shared with you now, with the texture of me recreated CE credits. So now cosmetologists in Texas can get CE credits on texture hair education. Yeah, right. Awesome. So, it's just really present to where we're starting from and the pioneer. You and I are like expanding this awareness and having people to see that there is an impact. And reflecting back even with you, I was saying that I saw that you had where you were working with students on the research. Are you still doing that as well?
Yes. So a big part of my personal and professional agenda is to make sure that I train the next generation.
Mm.
Because when I was saying I wanted to study this topic, I was not getting support around it. Like, what? Hair doesn't matter. Because think about this, it was a while ago. I know I look pretty young, but
Oh yeah,
this is
that you do, girl. Yes, you do. I was like,
yeah,
what?
but when I started graduate school at this point almost 20 years ago, that people were like, you can't study hair. So I was really censored. And so part of my agenda then is to make sure that students have the skill set and the interest to be able to continue this work. And so on most of the papers that I've published in scientific journals, I include students as co-authors, whether they're undergraduate students or graduate students. A big thing that people don't always know is that at this point to get in graduate school or to get a job as a professor, you have to actually have articles published even beforehand. I never realized that, and I lost out on a lot of opportunities
Hmm.
in terms of where I could go to school or where I could work because I didn't have some extensive catalog of publications. And so I've made sure that any student that has worked with me on research gets a major publication in their name. And that's sort of a ticket to be able to move forward in their career.
Oh, that's awesome. Because I was wondering, I see your name, but there's other people's names. So yeah, I was like, okay, well, great, the great collaboration. But that is so great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank
Yeah.
you for that. That's a great idea. That as I'm, completing my PhD program to put that in, and collectively, I'd love to.
You trying to publish something with
Yes, yes, totally, totally.
me?
Yes, please. I'm declaring that. I
Okay.
receive that. Yes, I would love that because really being present to that, it's a big deal. And
Yeah.
it's like it's funny. I see myself. I get moved by this.
Mhm.
Whereas I remember presenting this to my professors, and I was like, "What is hair and mental?" And then even texture. Like, how does that go together? How does it not? I remember growing up, wanting to wear my hair straight or wearing it straight. And if my hair didn't look right, I'm not going nowhere, you
Mm.
know?
Mhm.
So, and if it didn't look right, I didn't feel right, you know? And we know it being in the beauty industry, they pay millions and billions of dollars, but it doesn't affect us mentally. Oh no, and so with that being said, could you share what you've discovered and how mental health and hair work together, coincide, or the impact of it all?
Yeah, I think it's actually a reciprocal relationship
Mhm,
that there are instances where someone's hair causes or triggers, or their hair experiences causes or triggers psychological distress.
mhm,
And there are moments where psychological distress can then trigger hair concerns,
mhm,
in terms of seeing the relationship between the two. Uh, to some degree, I think our hair is like a litmus test for what's going on inside of our minds, right? What we're
mhm,
thinking about, how we're behaving, how we're feeling, so that if we're in extreme levels of stress, what happens to our hair? That our hair can actually physically change, fall out,
mhm.
lose some of its density, like just the chemistry of the hair can be altered.
Go
But
gray. Okay.
so it responds. Our hair actually responds to our thoughts and feelings, right? And especially our behaviors. But I'm also mindful that our hair is the most easily manipulated part of our bodies to some degree, right?
Mhm,
Especially when it comes to understanding our racial phenotype, right? Because when we think about what makes up the physical expression of race, it's our skin color, our facial features, and our hair texture.
right.
But we don't change our skin color day to day, right? If we have some racial incident, it's not some people skin bleach or put maybe lighter shades of makeup on, but it's very hard to change your skin color. Or let's say people don't like their how their lips are, or their nose, or their eyes, in terms of race, that it's hard to change your nose and
Mhm,
lips day to day, but you without surgery, right?
mhm,
But someone could change their hair every single day if they wanted to.
mhm,
And so some people want to, you know, always have it straight or only want it blonde or oh, put pounds and packs of hair in it to represent maybe how they're feeling or even um how they want to look based on societal pressures. And so again, I think that we use hair to communicate who we want to be.
mhm.
Um, and sometimes there's alignment with that because maybe you accept who you are and you can express yourself in that way. But other times, if there's a level of negative self-talk and
Mm,
criticism that we're overly manipulating our hair to the point of destroying it, right? Wanting our edges so laid that it's literally pulling the
mhm,
hair out of your scalp. So I'm just thinking about that reflection, but also in learning to love and take care of your hair, that can also improve your mental health as well. I know can spend a lot of time doing hair rituals, preparing myself for something, or uh, I know that when my hair is moisturized and my ends are cut, that I'm usually in a better state of mental health than when things are frazzled because it suggests that you're taking time to be with yourself and care for yourself.
mhm.
Um, that it is a form of mental health care to really have a consistent hair care routine and ritual. So
Yeah.
there's lots of ways to connect it.
And it's funny because I really appreciate you saying that because even when you said that, what I saw is that how our hair actually doesn't change. And it's the unique
Mm.
of who we are because you can put a relaxer, but baby, it's gonna grow back.
Yeah, I always like to say Africa always returns every
Yes.
4, 6 to 8 weeks. You cannot change that part of your identity.
Right. And it's the only thing that a person cannot permanently change. Thank you all for enjoying the show. The Texture of Me is proud and excited to announce the first ever Textured Hair approved CE credits. You can find it at thetextureofme.com/education. When it's time to renew, you know what to do. Again, thank you so much for your support and continue enjoying the show.
Mm.
Wow, that's I'm gonna leave that right there, and I'm gonna research more of that. Like it's more. I'm really present to a spiritual thing to connect with that. Like our hair is something that we can never permanently change.
Mm.
Wow, that says a lot about who we are with our hair. You know? Oh wow,
Mhm.
that's something new. Thank you for sharing that because that had me have insight on that. And that's really rich right there. Okay, I'm like, woo.
Layers, literally
Yeah,
layers.
layers. And I tell people, what did I say? Hair's just hair, right? Or hair's just
Mm.
hair, right?
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. And so, wow, that was really great and then very insightful. And I love that, like how that thought process triggered me thinking,
But
because
yeah, it's reciprocal because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, yeah."
yeah, no man, but it could be changed as far as formation and a look, but it never ever really changes. Hmm. And there's one thing that's always consistent. Whew. Okay, I'm just gonna put that to the side and let that marinate. Whatever message that comes with that, I'm gonna just go with it. Let me just be present right now. Yeah, just really excited. What else did I want to ask you about? Um, Now, are you still in the salon still, or you're not in the salon, or what are you doing with that?
No, I haven't been in the salon, all of COVID. That was just a choice that I made to not have that type of physical intimacy and touch. I've been completely virtual even as a therapist,
Mm,
um, all of COVID. I just was really into safety. I lost family members early on in the pandemic and just wanted to sort of isolate. But it actually then made me do more classes, like, and teach stylists and community members more through Zoom and things like that. So I felt like I actually got to reach and touch more people
mhm.
than just having clients in the salon a few days a week.
Gotcha. Well, I know I'm still in the salon, and a lot of my clients, knowing that will be completing my program, have been really uneasy, and I really decided I'm gonna stay in the industry until I feel
Mm,
complete,
mm,
because I realized that I actually enjoy doing the hair, and then I enjoy what I do. And it's
mm.
funny because once I decided and I told them, I said, okay, I'm gonna stay in the salon. It was like, oh, thank you. Oh, I'm so happy because where am I supposed to go? You know what I mean? I'm like, wow. Because the thing is, they want me to have my success as far as my PhD program, but they don't want me to leave them.
Really, no.
Yeah. But that just really speaks on the impact that we're bringing about this education about textured hair and the impact it's having, and having someone to understand. And that's the key, because a lot of people don't understand. When I
Mhm.
think about a client comes in, a new client, and she's like, well, I want to cut off 4 inches. And, she has textured hair. And she said, but I want to keep it long. No, ma'am. We are not going to, maybe even 2 inches. I said, no, because you cut off 2 inches and that's like 4 inches. You're not going to be upset with me. And I can't tell you how many times they come in and they're, like, so tense, and I
Mm,
look them face to face and be like, "Look, I got you. I
mm.
know what it's like. I got," and they just relax,
Yeah,
And so when I think about what you're doing to even teach these hairstylists how this hair thing is actually a mental thing, that's phenomenal,
yeah,
because we need more of hairstylists to understand that hair is not just hair. And
mm,
especially us, with our texture hair, we're so very particular. And our truth, I work in a hair salon. I love my peeps, okay? And I'm the only African American in there that does, my hair and everything.
mm.
And but they're very educated and they're really supporting me in what I'm up to. That's which I love too, right? But I'm not gonna lie, I don't let nobody do my hair. I don't. No, I don't. And it's a sacred thing to me. It's nothing against them, but I don't wanna do them like that, 'cause the truth remains, it's like, if I could just sit there, and I think maybe there's still some traumatizing thing for me to deal with,
Yeah,
truthfully. And so if a mistake is made, at least I did it. But it's
mm,
nothing against them. But have I had other people do my hair? Yeah, and this was when it was straight. And sometimes they cut too much, and Lord, I have a fit, but I wouldn't say nothing. I was like, it's gonna grow back. But anyhow, I digress. Really, it's just the point of really expressing that this is so needed,
mm,
and just the youth now are embracing their natural hair, and how it's so important for them to fully accept who they are, because their hair is representative of who they are, and how they identify themselves. And
mm,
as you and I are discussing and really discovering, like, hair really never changes, then it's like, oh, well, we surely need to keep this going, because it's a level of how we identify
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah.
Our identity is self-identity, because it says our history. When we do drug tests, or when they want to do some type of testing, what's the first thing they do? Take a hair strand,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, there's huge significance on how hair relates to mental health. And
Yeah.
if you tell a child that their hair is not beautiful, what are you telling that child? You
Mm,
know? So yeah, I just really thank you for the work that you're doing, and with expanding it, how to say, beyond yourself, and teaching other youth to, be a part of this. So yeah, yes, thank you. And that's inspiring too, because I'm like, what do I get to do? You know what I'm
mm,
saying? And because my thing is, I'm not just to here teach about the hair itself, but since I'm in the field and I've been in the field so long, I feel like it wouldn't be right for me to just cut off what I know about texture hair and just go into
mm.
psychology, which I could have. That's what had me to look to put it together, because I saw
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mm.
What would you like to say?
Yeah, well, I'm excited to think about what a world would look like where stylists are trained by mental health professionals, right? In terms of they're already doing some of these techniques that we had to go to school for, right? Being natural as lay health advisors, people go to stylists for support and care, but they don't always know what to say. I know I still even struggle as a psychologist to really figure out what to say, or even, and maybe this was your experience too, how to listen. Because I
Mm,
actually think listening is more difficult of a skill to learn
mm,
than saying the right thing, because to really make sure someone feels understood is a real science.
mm,
And so I'm just excited for us, right, as we build and collaborate and see that connection between hair and mental health, because, you know, women are way more likely to get their hair done than to see a psychologist.
mm,
Women are way more likely to get their hair done than to even go to a doctor's appointment, period. People spend more time in the salon than a doctor's office.
mhm.
And so recognizing that there's a health and healing opportunity. I've never met someone who doesn't need healing, right?
Right.
I don't know if that person exists. And so to really see the salon and hair care process as a healing opportunity
Mm.
is just, I guess, part of my life purpose and passion. So.
For sure, for sure. So what are the feedbacks you've been getting from a hairstylist who's been taking your training and things like that? What have and what
Mm.
has been the results?
Ooh, great question. Yeah, in terms of the initial feedback, one, there are tears. I'm just gonna put it out there that people feel so moved during the training, because people say, I always knew that had such an important role or purpose. So,
Mm,
but
yeah.
also kind of, I think tears and like, I wish I learned this sooner. I
Mm.
could have been able to better deal with different things in my career, but also care for myself. I think that's an interesting thing that happens in
Oh,
teaching about
wow. Mhm.
mental health. They were like, ooh, I need to deal with this trauma that I have around my own hair.
Mm,
And even thinking about how that can impact other people. So that's initial information. But of course, I never learned this in school, is a common statement. Like you said, we're not taught some of these important skills, life skills,
mhm.
in any school,
Yeah,
whether
for
it's
sure,
K
for
through
sure.
12 or
Right.
cosmetology school. Feedback is that I know a few stylists have started running basically like group therapy sessions in their salon. There's one stylist in San Diego named Misty, and what she's decided to do is collaborate with a therapist and herself and have these evening, like once all her clients are done, evening get-togethers for community building, right? In
Mhm.
terms of recognizing that all she's hearing throughout the day has common themes. And so what would happen if these women got together and like problem solve together? So I've
Mm,
seen that happen. I've seen people who've gone through the training post on their hair pages more about mental health, right?
mm,
I think that that's something that happens, just the way that they market themselves to
mhm.
like, I'm really gonna listen to you if you come to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, or
Wow.
even I noticed some stylists offering differences in their service. Like, do they want a quiet service versus do you want to have a conversation about your job, your family? Like people actually now list that along with like knotless braids or
Mm.
like
Wow,
uh,
that's
lock
beautiful.
styling. So to actually acknowledge that it's a service that's enhancing the experience as well.
Yeah. And when I think about that's one of the industries that we get to touch people mentally and physically, and to have a level of this I mean, have the skills that you're sharing with your program is phenomenal because like you say, a lot of times they don't go to the doctor, but they'll go get their hair done, and they're
Mhm.
sitting hours to get their hair done versus go to the doctor. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And, I may look to have that with our salon and talk to them about having you there because I think that'd be great.
I would love
Yes. So
that.
I look to talk to them and see what that will look like because they are open to it. As I even shared about the impact of the industry and textured hair, and I presented it to them, and they were like so moved because they didn't
Mm.
identify hair like that way.
Yeah.
And to be educated in this way, I think that would be so useful, so impactful because the industry,
Mm.
if anything, when the whole pandemic happened, people did not stop getting their hair done. Okay. They didn't, I mean, they may limit how much, no, people ate more, but I was gonna say they limited how much they ate, but, but there are some things that stopped, the hair did not stop.
Their school stopped, but not hair,
Yeah,
like, at the
exactly.
same
School stuff, but not hair. It was like, we masked up and and now it's just like that. But even then, that's when I knew I had to shift what I was doing. When the whole pandemic came around, and I was like, well, my clients doing what they gotta do. Is what I'm doing as an industry, and then they didn't. Some start seeing me, but then I can't touch them. At that time, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it started shifting me to where I am now with the texture of me, which I'm glad I did. But now I still, and now I have all of it available. So it's really important to provide a level of research when they are not able to come to salon and deal with mental
Exactly.
things and have therapy or whatever and still have that. And who knows, the stylist could create something for herself if she does, or he, barbers too, right? Have some
Mhm.
services to support them. And I love what you
Yeah.
said because I think is reciprocal, because when they're looking to identify and support people with their hair journey, they discover something for themselves. So
Yes.
yeah, you got some great things going on here and I love it. And I'm like, wow, like this is phenomenal. So thank you for the
Mm.
work that you're doing and the impact. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the recognition. I think you get it, so it feels really special coming
Yes.
from you.
Totally
Mhm.
get it. Yeah. Every time I keep talking to chills, I'm like, ooh, boom, boom. I love it all. And it's so moving and it's so
Mm.
needed. And it's being the pioneer of this work, this is what it looks like.
Mm.
And if anything is just to keep going. Because even though
Yeah.
people may not be saying anything right now, they are saying something. And
Mhm.
something is happening, you know?
Yeah.
So really thank you for the work that you're doing. And I'm like, man, I only have a certain amount of time we're supposed to talk today. We're gonna have to revisit this. And so just really grateful for you to be on the show. Um tell so before we complete today, I really want people to be able to know where they can find you and even your services. Please do tell for our listeners and our viewers.
Yeah. So I have a pretty active Instagram presence. So you can find me at Dr. Afiya, so Dr_AFIYA, or at psychotherapy, so psycho hair APY.
Okay.
Um, and on the website, psychotherapy.org. Those are the best ways to stay up to date with everything that's happening.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, and this is like a PS part of the show because your practice. Let's talk about your practice.
Okay.
So, with that being said, like was about to complete, but hold up, pull it back a little bit. Um, tell me, when people, do people also come to see you for therapy regarding their hair and things like that as well?
Yes, yes. So I have a private practice. It's called Mayat Psychological Services. So Mayat is an Egyptian deity or goddess of truth, order, balance, reciprocity, all these good things like morality,
Mhm.
and justice. And so people definitely come to see me for hair related issues. One of the mental health topics that not too many people specialize in is coping with alopecia. So I
Mm,
have quite a few clients who sought treatment from me in terms of the psychological distress and anxiety and depression that comes along with hair loss. And
mm.
so that actually is a presenting concern for some of the people who see me for therapy, like just traditional therapy work that I do.
Oh, we need to have Jada Pinkett come see you so she could, I'm just saying, it's nothing like when people can really understand. And I'm not saying her therapist wouldn't, but I'm just saying. But that's awesome to provide that too, because I'm sure that people would like to go see a regular doctor, but it's something about someone who actually understands and can really speak to that really
Mhm.
supports them.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's phenomenal. I love it. Like, your ancestors, your auntie, you said who it was. Yeah,
Yes.
that's really beautiful. And, sowing that seed into you and realizing like you could do both. So
Mhm.
awesome, awesome. I'm like, I don't even want to complete, but and like I said, we'll do a be continued. It's just
Okay.
phenomenal. And we're gonna be working together. Look,
Yes.
for sure, for sure. I just really thank you so much for being on on our show. Such a gift, such a blessing. And just thank you. And for our listeners, follow her on her IG. If you want to know about it's hair therapy, hair
Psychotherapy.
psychotherapy. Yes.
Psychotherapy.
Um, reach out to her. She's an amazing being. She's up to great work, and I greatly appreciate you. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a great one. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support the show, please share it with others. Post about it on your social media. Leave a rating and review. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.